All right, let's get started, guys. So welcome to a2f Sunday. So good to see you guys back from fall break. We have a little bit of a smaller crowd because I think about 10 to 15 of us were serving at an Inner High church. And so just if you don't know, Inner High is one of our ministries where we try to serve under-resourced youth groups. And there's one right next to Purdue campus. It's a small Korean, well, it's not even that small, but it's just a Korean church that has about like 10 to 15 youth that don't have a youth pastor. And so we're going to help put on Sunday worship service for them this Sunday. So that's where a good chunk of us are. But other than that, welcome back from fall break, guys. So I feel like it's been a while. I'm not going to lie, this past about week and a half has been quite an experience for me. So during fall break, we absolutely pulled out a spontaneous Washington, D.C. trip. And I'm not going to lie, I think I ate about like 14,000 calories in about 2 days. And so I was trying to find pictures, and the only pictures I found from that trip are these. And so, if I could just, I'm going to cut it real quick. Oh my God. All right, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. It's in the back. It's in the back? Oh, got it. Okay, there it is. Yeah, there are the pictures. So we did very cultured things, like that's the African American Museum. We went to monuments, but really all I remember is like that Korean barbecue that we ate, as well as anyway. So we ate a lot. It was fun, and then we drove Friday night to Ohio. And that was 4 hours from here. We slept that night, and then 6 a.m. on Saturday, we just blitzed it to DC, and we got to DC at around like 12:45. Went straight to the museum, monumented, did that for about like 4 hours, drove straight to our Korean barbecue place, which was our dinner. And then after that, we had even more food. We had dessert, boba. And then we ended the night getting hosted by our church in Fairfax, where they produced even more food for us. And so we ate that, and then we woke up early Sunday, drove all the way back to OSU 6 hours, did service there, had dinner there, and then lest you think we were done with that, we ate even more after that dinner. And so that was my fall break. And then after that, though, so that was kind of like, if I think about it, it's like I engorged myself. And then yesterday, I did this. So I ran the Purdue half marathon, all right? And so I did it, guys. This is my... I only ran one other half marathon in my life, and I ran that cold turkey when I was like 25. And I took 4 Advils, and I just ran it cold. And I think I got like a 2 hour, like 20. That was my time. But this past Saturday, I went for it, and I got 1:47, I think. And then I told myself, I feel pretty good, except right now I don't feel that good. So every hour that passes, my legs hurt even more and more and more. And so I'm not going to lie, I think at some point I might pull out that stool over there and sit. So that was my weekend. So a lot's happened since fall break. I think yesterday or on Friday, we also had our Student Leader Monthly, where we just had a time in Proverbs. And then we had a Iron Chef competition with French toast. And so there is some stuff that we did that I cannot show in public, but just to let you know, it's really fun. Who forgot? Who won? I think it was Justin, Daisha, and Sam. Yeah, that group. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Some of them tasted really weird, but theirs was the best of the lot, I guess, is what it is. Anyway, so that was that. And then I think the freshmen and sophomores, you guys had a work night at Cumberland for a big event that's coming up, which is our freshman-hosted large group Bible study that's on October 31st. So please mark your calendars for that. But I was looking through our our iCloud album, and I saw this, and I just had to play it. Okay, I don't know what this is, but I think it's a game that you guys played. All right, so I don't know what this is, but what is this, like tag? No? Can that be? Is this what game is this? I don't understand. It's a game called Zombies. Zombies. Oh, they're zombies. What's the pillows for?
It's a weapon of choice.
A weapon of choice? Okay, what are the rugs for?
That's the boundary. You have to stay on the rug.
Oh, so then what? Okay, so then this is what they did. But they also had a productive night. They also planned for the night. But that's kind of what happened this past weekend. But all right, that's enough of me just randomly talking about stuff that happened this week. Okay, so why don't we do this? We're going to get started with our service. But before we do, we wanted to have just a quick little icebreaker, all right? Just to kind of get to know each other and shrink this room a little bit. So I need all of you to just stand up. Okay, we're gonna play a game called Four Corners, all right? And so it's four corners, and how it's gonna work is I'm gonna just throw either or. You have to choose one or the other. And so for the first category, it's gonna show on the screen. Depending on which one you agree with, you're gonna go to one side of the room versus the other, all right? And so the first one is, would you rather be an NBA bench warmer or be the world's best professional curler, which is a really random sport. So, okay, so blue that side, red that side. Why don't you divide the room depending on which you would rather be, all right? NBA bench warmer or be the world's best professional curler. All right, all right. There is no in between. You just gotta choose one, okay? Just gotta choose one. Just match, match this, match the screen. Match this, oh my God. NBA bench warmer that side, best professional curler this side. Curler this side, bench warmer that side, okay? All right, all right. Are you guys ready? All right, all right. Okay, now we have our second category, okay? And so then, stay in this group. The next division is gonna be between, would you rather only be able to shout or only be able to whisper, okay? So shout is going to the front and whisper is going to the back. So in your groups, divide front, back. Shout to the front, whisper to the back, okay? But stay within your quadrants. Stay within your quadrants. All right, okay, if you guys are ready. Okay, so now I need you guys to form groups of 3 to 4, share your name, and then on your name tag, I think there should be like a superhero that you resonate with or like or whatever that is. Share that superhero, all right? And then I want you to discuss this question. If you had to compete professionally in one category that you could make up, what would you pick? All right? So mine would be thumb wrestling because I have toe-shaped thumbs and I think I could win in every thumb wrestling match. All right, so why don't we do that for 1 minute, okay? And then we have another round of this. All right, 15 more seconds to wrap up. 15 more seconds. All right, okay, if I could have everyone gather in the middle again, we have one more round of this. If we could all gather in the middle, okay? And so we're gonna reorient ourselves again. Gather in the middle, gather in the middle. Okay, guys ready? You guys ready? So this is gonna get a little bit more vulnerable, right? Actually, not really. Okay, so here is the next one, all right? So we're resetting. Would you rather have an extra finger or have a missing toe, okay? Extra finger on that side, missing toe on this side, all right?
Is there really extra pull-up strength?
Extra finger right here, missing toe over here, okay? All right, you guys ready? All right. All right, you guys ready? You guys ready? You guys ready? All right. Okay, here's the next category. Would you rather forget who you are or forget who everyone else is? Okay? So forget who you are to the front, forget who everyone else is to the back. So why don't we divide that one more time? Forget who you are to the front and forget who everyone else is to the back, okay?
Lose myself.
I feel like those around me that I remember remind me of
Other
who I
people
am.
can tell me who I am.
Yeah.
All right, and if you're ready, get into groups of 3 to 4 again. Share your name, your superhero, and then discuss this question or just share about a time you or someone you know forgot about something super important, all right? So why don't we do that for 1 minute?
My old roommate Jason passed us before going home.
One of my friends did that before in Canada. He was going on a mission trip to Ecuador. Okay? He had his passport, but like they were about to start boarding the plane, and he was like, "Man, like I'm starving." So he went to like the ATM there, and he did. And literally, he got to Ecuador like a day late, and he like stayed in. Yeah, he literally just spent the night there. Definitely seen that. We managed to get a coat hanger. Well, most of the time when he
All right, so hopefully that was, actually probably wasn't enough time, but that's okay. All right, guys, we're gonna hard transition, all right? We're gonna hard transition. We're gonna get really, not really meaningful, but somewhat meaningful and connect, because I'm sure you guys feel comfortable now talking about when you forgot something. So as a confessional, my answer to this prompt was it is true. During our Washington, D.C. trip, me and my wife both forgot that was our anniversary date. So we are gonna go to lunch together on Monday, but thankfully we both forgot, because that would be bad if only one of us forgot. All right, so in those groups, okay, so what I want you to do, I want you to connect over the past week. And so what's gonna happen is I'm gonna show you this little slide right here, and there's just some words, maybe some stuff that happened this past week, but just want to give you an opportunity to just choose one of those words and just share why you felt that way from this past week. So it could be something you're grateful for, or maybe school's been an absolute grind and you feel burdened, whatever it is, or however much you feel comfortable, but just an opportunity to just connect from this past week. And then after everyone gets the time to share, I would actually want the oldest person in that group to just share or to just pray a short prayer for your group, okay? So why don't we do that for the next couple minutes, and then we'll get started with our message after that.
not trash on the product.
Last week I felt a lot of joy. All great.
All right, make sure you have time for the oldest person in the group to pray for you, and then we'll get started soon. All right, let's wrap up in 10 seconds. All right, if we could all head back to our seats, grab our seats, we'll get started with our sermon. So let's all come and grab our seats. All right, so we're going to get started with service, and so hopefully that was a good time just to be able to connect, but we're going to jump straight in, all right? So we're going to continue our study in the book of John, okay? And so last week, well, Brian, I think for those who are around, gave a testimonial Bible study last week, but before that, we ended on John chapter 2, but we're just going to jump ahead to John chapter 4. And so we're going to talk about that encounter. It's one of the most famous encounters that Jesus has with this person, but before that, I wanted to start off, it could seem random, but I'm going to talk a little bit about, all right, love, okay? Love. And so why that? Maybe partially because we did have our anniversary, so that's our 11th year anniversary, actually, for me and Tabby. Actually, random fact, I don't think I told everyone, but Chris and Bia, they are not here because Bia is getting induced today. And so baby Hudson will be born hopefully within the next couple days. Yeah, so that's where they're at. Godspeed, Chris and Bia. But I wanted to talk about love, and to get us into this mood, I wanted to listen to a portion of a song written by one of my peers, okay? And that peer is Taylor Swift. And so this came out when I was in high school to college, right? So we're gonna just watch a snippet right here just to get us into this mood, okay? Here we go. It's nice. That's too much. All right, we're gonna end it right there. Okay, so love. All right, guys, love. And so, I don't know if you know this, but love. I'm sure you guys know this. Love is like one of those big themes in every like song, movie, TV show. Like, did you know that actually 60 to 70% of all songs written are about love? And so, you just have to look at some of the Grammy Award-winning songs. So I looked some of them up. So from 1973, the first time I ever saw your face, to when I was in high school, Fallen by Alicia Keys, and then to everything that people like Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran wrote about, right? So like a lot of these songs are about love. It's about finding love, and I think we get it. Like love, it's life is about love. Like someone could be super successful, but if they're alone and they don't have many relationships, I don't think we'd say like that's a good life. Like there's something about life that we know it's about love, and then finding true love. Even the most like machismo guy here, deep down, wants to find true love, right? And so there's that reality. But then on the flip side, as many songs there are about like, what is this called? Love Story by Taylor Swift. There are also just as many songs about love that failed, right? And so by my peer, Taylor Swift, not only from Love Story, but apparently there's this song that I never heard about, which is called All Too Well. And she writes stuff like, maybe we got lost in translation. Maybe I asked for too much. But maybe this thing was a masterpiece till you tore it all up. Dang, dude. Running scared, I was there. I remember it all too well. You can call me up, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so it's an interesting dilemma. Like, we all want to find true love, but then true love is also hard to find. And so much so that it's like really elusive. And so then there's this thing that we want, there's this thing that we desire, but it's kind of like a hit or miss. Sometimes people seem like they find it, but actually maybe not. And so we ask the question, is that even possible? And actually in today's text, we're going to meet a woman in the crux of that dilemma. Like someone who really wanted to find love and tried so hard, but like many others, it eludes her time and time and time again until she gets to the point where she's ready to give up. But then something happens and she ends up finding it. But it's just in the most unlikely of places. And so the text that we're going to cover is John chapter 4. And so, these past several weeks we've been having a lot of time to discuss and share, but we're going to change it up today, all right? So we're going to have times to just kind of study the text and discuss, but we're going to front load it. So I'm going to give you a chunk of time to just study this text, read it, study it, get into it, and then we're going to backload it. Just give you some time to just share and discuss after the message, all right? So I'm going to give you guys about 10 to 15 minutes, and what I want you to do is just read the passage. It's on your handout. It's John chapter 4, verses 1 through 30. And this is what I want you to do to get into this text, all right? I want you to put on your best like director's cap, TV show director cap, K-drama director cap, whatever that is. Okay, and the story doesn't give us much about this woman that we're going to read, the story of this woman that we're going to read, but I want you to try to reconstruct this woman's life. So just off the bat, we find out that she had 5 failed marriages. Okay, 5 failed marriages, and then the 6th person that she's with, she doesn't even bother to get married to. And there's some details in the text that we could kind of get like a snapshot of how she is now. And so I put some of that background on your handout. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to take some creative license and try to reconstruct her backstory, okay? There's nothing in the text that, points to that, but just take some creative license, reconstruct her backstory, because I'm sure she didn't go into every single marriage thinking it's gonna fail. Like somewhere along the line, something happened. And so why don't we do that? Just read the text, try to reconstruct her backstory, and by the end, I want you to come up with 3 words that describe this woman. Sounds good? So I'll give you guys about 10 to 15 minutes. Do that by table, and then we'll gather back together. Give you guys 1 minute. All right, let's gather back together. So hopefully you guys got into it a little bit. So I don't know how you guys reconstructed the story, but I'm sure this woman, I mean, like when she was a little girl, I'm sure she didn't think that her marriage was going to end that way. I'm sure she was just like any other little girl who had dreams of getting married happily ever after. But then one thing after another, maybe it's just, I don't know, like unfaithfulness on one part or the other, or even life tragedy like death, or if you go to the common Asian trope for most Asian dramas like amnesia, things like that happen, you know, and whatever it is, here she is at the end of her life, or not end of her life, at the story where she's pretty sassy. I mean, she sasses Jesus. That's pretty sassy, okay. She's very like hardened. She's come to the well at a time where no other woman comes, so she's obviously avoiding everyone else, and it makes sense because it's like she would have been the gossip of the town. So she's avoiding everyone, and she's pretty cynical because she ends up with this guy, but this sixth guy she's not even married to. And so then here's this woman, and I think this text, it has a lot to tell us. And so I just wanted to break it down a little bit, share some thoughts, and then just have some time to be able to share around it, all right? And so I think the first one that I want to kind of highlight is this idea of thirst, because that's a big theme, right, in this passage. And so Jesus, he's talking about things like, give me a drink that you would have asked him, right? And he would have given you living water. And then everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. So then there's all this stuff, and clearly, okay, Jesus is not talking about like literal H2O. But he's using this as a metaphor to talk about something deeper. And so he's using this idea of thirst to capture this desire, this deep desire or longing that this woman has that she's been trying to satisfy, but it's clear it's failed up to this point. And what was that failed life strategy? Well, for her, it was romance, marriage, love. I mean, she's been married 5 times and now she's going on the 6th one. And even today, I think that would raise some eyebrows, right? Like, who does that? But here's the thing. Desperation, it causes us to do some crazy things. So I don't know if anyone here has been like super, super parched, but I don't think I have, but there's this story that I recently read about an ultra marathoner, okay? And he was running 156 miles in the Saharan desert. I don't know why, but that's a thing, okay? And he got lost, okay? He got lost because of a sandstorm, and he wandered for apparently like 9 days without like a water pack. And so he was desperate. Like he was so desperate that he would do crazy things, like a little TMI, but he would drink his own, urine. That's one, but that was not even the crazy thing. That wasn't enough, so what he would do is he would wait until nighttime and he'd catch these bats, just grab them, pin them down, and then suck on their wings for whatever moisture he could get. And so he survived, actually, but at the end of it, they did an interview and he said this: when you're thirsty, it's so unbearable, you'll do anything in order to live. And so here's this woman. Like, she is desperate. And it's not for physical water, but it's for something, like something to quench this thirst or this desire or this longing that she can't quite articulate, but it's unquenched, and it becomes so unbearable that she, even though she kind of knows at a certain point, right? At a certain point, she knows this whole romance, marriage thing is not working, but she's going to go back to this failed strategy again and again and again because that's the only thing she knows. And so here she is with her sixth guy, but that guy's not even her husband. So then it's interesting. When we look at our situation, yes, it's like extreme, but I think in some ways it's really understandable. Like this woman, she was craving love and she was trying to satisfy it with romance. But like, isn't that the same for us? Like there's these longings or this thirst or these desires that we have. Maybe it's for like love, true love, whatever it is. And then we think like things like romance or attention or respect or like career or money, all of that stuff, that's gonna be what satisfies us. And we think these strategies, that's gonna quench our thirst or satisfy our desires. But here's the thing, like this woman, what's gonna end up happening is what it says in verse 13, that we will be thirsty again and again and again and again. Like we think, man, the next one will be different. Like that's the story of her life, right? The next one, maybe the next one will be different. But then like the first one, that marriage fell apart. And the next and the next. And it's the same thing that I've seen happen in a lot of people's lives. Like they think the next one will be different. And how many times have we said that in our life? Right? Like the next gadget, or that next guy or girl, or the next stage in life, or the next city I live in, the next job, the next context or opportunity, the next one's gonna be different, and that's gonna make me happy. And I think even though many of you are still young, I think you've already experienced life enough to know. Like after that gadget or that admission to school or whatever it is, things aren't like that different. Maybe it's exciting for about like a week or two or a month, like the novelty of it, but eventually it's like, we're thirsty again. Like there must be something more to life. But it's at this point in the story that Jesus says this. And I think it's one that gives her hope. Whoever drinks of this water that I will give, will never be thirsty again. In other words, Jesus is saying, hey, there is something out there that's going to truly satisfy you. It's not what you're going for, but there is something. And maybe a little bit of hope is rekindled. And so she's beginning to hope again. But then this conversation takes a sharp twist, okay? Because what's the next thing that Jesus does? He does this. Go call your husband and come here. And the woman replies, I have no husband. And Jesus said to her, you are right in saying I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you have said is true. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, so Jesus basically poked the very thing that she finds the most sensitive, shameful, like it's the thing that she's trying to hide and avoid people from, right? But here's Jesus basically revealing all of that, confronting her with that. And the question is like, why? Is he trying to do it to like shame her? Is he trying to do it to hurt her? No, I don't think so. He's trying to show her that he knows her. He knows her. I know your story. I know what you've done. He needs her to know that he knows, but that he's still here. Because if you think about it, this is kind of like a detour in Jesus' journey, but he went out of his way to be here, and really he only interacted with one person in this story, in this area, and that's this woman. And yet he's still here. And so it's interesting. It's an invitation to confess. So he says, go call your husband, right? An invitation to confess, but the woman doesn't confess. She offers a half-truth, which is, I have no husband. But Jesus, he takes that. Like that's enough for him. And he ends up filling in the rest. Again, not to humiliate her, but to heal her and to help her. Because the truth is, and I wish I had more time to talk about this, like what we most hide is often what most hurts in our life, I think. like our secrets, the things that we want to not talk about, the things that if people knew, we feel like, man, I don't think they would love us. Like they're like untreated wounds that fester and they boil, right? And the very hiding, it keeps us from the very thing that I think some of us really long for, which is love. Because what is love? Love means to be truly known and to be truly accepted no matter what. And yet there's these things that we want to hide. And that's what Jesus is exposing. Again, not to condemn, but to invite her. He's basically saying, I know your story. I know your sin. But here's the thing, I'm still here. And that's what the Bible calls grace. And so I just want to exhort you guys, like this woman, like we can face our secrets in the light because of the gospel. And that's what confession is. It's such a big thing in the Bible. And confession isn't just admitting like sin, but it's also agreeing with Jesus that whatever our old strategies in life were, they're not working. And whatever it is, it caused me to do, here's it all, Jesus. Like all my shame, everything that I've done. And the thing is, I think we fear rejection, but on the other side of the confession is the same thing that this woman found, which is Jesus saying, I know, but I have living water for you that I want to give you that is so much better than that. That's grace. And so it's only after that confession that the woman is able to then move on to this conversation and I guess, discover what Jesus has in store. And so again, this conversation takes another sharp twist because from this confession, this woman says something like, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. And then they begin to talk about this whole idea of Jerusalem and like worship and this big theme about worship for this next text. And you're thinking, like, what is going on here? Okay, it started from living water, thirst, like this longing and this desire. Then it went to confession and then it went randomly to worship in Jerusalem. But here's the thing. It seems like what's going on here is through this fascinating conversation, Jesus has awakened in this woman this deeper longing. Like this deep thirst that she thought was going to be satisfied through the pursuit of romance. But what Jesus is saying is, no. That's not what's going to satisfy. It's actually this thing called transcendence and worship. In other words, he's saying, look, we long for worship, which is to find that one thing and the one person worthy of awe and wonder. And that's what the cry of your heart, that's what that deep longing is asking for. And now, okay, at this point, if you're anything like me, when I first heard this text, you're like, what in the world is he talking about? I definitely don't agree that worship is a thing that my soul is longing for. But I remember thinking that way, but I remember being really convinced because here's the reality. I think we all agree, like there's all something that we're kind of longing for. And it's hard to articulate, but it gets captured by words like, I don't know, meaning and purpose or like true joy and satisfaction. Like we're longing for something in our lives. And I think if push comes to shove, we know that things like romance, like money, career, a good resume, and all that stuff isn't going to fully satisfy that. So then the question is, what will? And C.S. Lewis, author of Chronicles of Narnia, and just an incredible Christian author, he puts it this way. He says, look, if you have a desire, like any desire, that must mean that something exists that satisfies that desire. So he talks about hunger. That means bread exists, right? He talks about thirst. That means water exists. So then what about this longing or this desire that we kind of know things on earth are not going to satisfy? What does that mean? Well, he goes on to say this. If we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that we were made for another world. In other words, C.S. Lewis is saying, hey, when you find that you're not satisfied with the things in the world and you're kind of like tired of the failed attempts, that's actually good news because it's a clue to the fact that maybe you've been barking up the wrong tree your whole time. Like it's a clue that maybe we were made for something else. And I think if we try to think about it and conjure up some moments of this, we have glimpses, okay? Like, I think we could recall moments when we were really, really happy, there's true joy, and it had nothing to do with how well we did on that test or whether that guy or girl noticed us, right? And this is an interesting question because it conjures up such different responses, but it's things like, I don't know if you had a time when you're just with a group of friends and they tell you a story and it's so hilarious and all of you are laughing so hard, like snot, tear, everything's coming out of your face, right? And there's like this moment where it's like so happy, right? Or other moments when you're cheering for your favorite sports team like I was for the Dodgers this past week, and they pull off some incredible play, and there's this upset win, and you and your friends are just cheering for the sports team. You like lose yourself in that moment. And there's such true joy that has nothing to do with like how you're doing in life, right? It's just focusing on something else, and there's so much camaraderie and joy. Or maybe a little bit more serious, it's kind of like, I don't know, when you're just out in nature. So I love the Midwest. I had a moment where probably should have been preparing for this, but I was staring out my window, out at the leaves changing colors, and I was just staring for 30 minutes straight. And I remember thinking like, wow, it's so beautiful here. Or maybe it's like when we look out at the night sky and it's like, oh my gosh, we feel so small, but it's so amazing what we're looking at. Or maybe it's like a mother looking at the face of her sleeping baby. And there's something about these moments that share a common quality, which is it has nothing to do with like, we're not thinking about ourselves at all, right? It's just focused on something else. If anything, you look kind of silly doing it. Like I remember looking outside, it's just, like I'm not thinking about how my face looks, right? But it's just like I'm so like caught up in whatever's outside of me, beyond me, right? It has something to do with love. And there's something about it that we wish that it was timeless, right? That it could last forever, but then it doesn't, which is why like words like nostalgia are such a common phrase in our vernacular. So then like there's these moments or these glimpses of joy that don't have anything to do with like money or career or sex or anything like that. And the Bible says these are all moments of worship. They're just glimpses of the heavenly worship of God, whose own love, creativity, and beauty is infinitesimally reflected in these examples. You know, the Bible describes it this way. God made us to be in a relationship with him, and apart from him, we're never going to find rest. Augustine says, our souls are always restless until we find our rest in God. In other words, we were meant for worship, for transcendent love. Now, late author David Foster Wallace, Times Magazine named him one of the best novelists. He's not a Christian, but he said this at a commencement address to a group of college students. It's a long quote, but I think it's really insightful. He says this, in the day-to-day trenches of adult life, there is actually no such thing as atheism. There is no such thing as not worshiping. Everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And an outstanding reason for choosing some sort of God or spiritual type thing to worship is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. If you worship money and things, if they are where you tap real meaning in life, then you will never have enough. Never feel you have enough. It's the truth. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally plant you. On one level, we all know this stuff already. Worship power, you will feel weak and afraid, and you will need ever more power over others to keep the fear at bay. Worship your intellect, being seen as smart, you will end up feeling stupid, a fraud, always on the verge of being found out, and so on. So what he's saying is kind of what we're talking about in our text. Like we are meant for worship. But the thing is, nothing else in this world is meant to satisfy that deep longing. It's what C.S. Lewis says. Okay, well, if nothing in this world is meant to satisfy, then it must be something outside of this world. And that's what the Bible calls a relationship with God and worship. So through this fascinating conversation, this woman's longing for worship was awakened. And she says, I know that the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he will tell us all things. So she's referring to this prophecy. And she's saying, look, I realize there's something I've been waiting for, something I've been longing for. And I thought it was romance, but I realized, wait, I remember this prophecy that I heard as a little girl. It must be that. It must be worship. And Jesus says, you're right. And he says to her, I who speak to you am he. Like you found it. It's in me. So here's this woman, right? Someone who was looking for love, hopeful at one point, desperate, but now jaded, cynical. She's ashamed, hardened, isolated. And yet the crazy thing is by the end of the story, it's like she's a completely different person. She leaves her water jar and she goes into the town and says to the very people she's been avoiding her for so long, like, come see a man who told me all that I ever did. Can this be the Christ? It's a woman who comes running back into town to the very people she's been avoiding, proclaiming and exclaiming that she's finally found the thing that she's been looking for her entire life. So then, what happened? I think there's a lot we can learn from her story, but I wanted to end with this thought. How can we quench our desire for true love, this thing that we're longing for that we have a hard time articulating? And actually, it boils down to one thing. It started with one thing, and it was a conversation. A conversation. It just starts with being curious. being open to just engaging in conversation with God and with others about God. So here's this woman, right? By all cultural standards, she would have had no desire to talk to this guy, right? Because he's Jewish, he's a man. It's a topic she doesn't want to talk about either, given her history, but she does. Like, even in the midst of disappointment and cynicism, there's still something inside of her that wondered, could it be possible that there is something like living water? And even if initially it seems super far-fetched, super unlikely, even if the person she was about to have a conversation with is, let's be frank, someone she normally wouldn't have a conversation with, she at least chooses to enter into that conversation. A little sassy, a little kind of like pushback, but she engages in that conversation. And maybe at first, it's just to humor him, like, oh, okay, living water, geez, are you serious? Okay, what are you talking about? We're at a well, blah, blah, blah. But then with each answer Jesus gives her, she gets slowly drawn in. A little breadcrumb here, like, huh? Like, what does that mean? Wait, really living water? Like, who are you? Could you truly be the Messiah? Like, Jesus draws her in through that conversation. And here's the thing, that conversation, it changes her life. And I have to say, that was my story. So coming into college, I had no intention of going to church, okay? Like checking church or seeking God, but I was trying to figure out life, right? I was trying to figure out what to do with my life and what would make me happy. What would satisfy this thing that I thought like, oh, I just want to live a happy life. What is going to satisfy that? And then at the first week of school at a local gym, I happened to meet some people from church, okay? They played ball. They beat me at basketball. That was cool. They're really cool people. And but then I remember like at first when they told me they were part of church and they were trying to invite me to bowling, I was super guarded, okay? I was like, no thanks, right? And then they try to engage me in different conversations about my life. I was still guarded. Then they try to engage me in different conversations with God. And admittedly, in the beginning, I was not interested at all, but I kind of came just because they were really friendly. And okay, let's be honest, they had free food. Okay, so I liked that. So I came, and then they would ask me, hey, what did you think about God? And I'm not going to lie, those initial conversations were absolutely uninterested. I just threw out random answers just to humor them. Okay, that was kind of how I started my spiritual journey, that conversation. And here's the thing, though. Man, I'm so glad I did. And on the flip side, I am so glad that they still chose to engage with me, even though I'm sure I had the face of death and I was clearly not interested. They kept on trying to engage with me, kept on trying to find new angles to draw me in. And you know what? That initial conversation and the following, like it drew me in. It helped me articulate this thing called desire and longing and thirst. And I'm like, wow, it's really not career or like romance. Then what is it? Then it led me to talking about God and worship. And then I finally hit a point where it all clicked. And I said, wow, this is so true. And I became Christian. That conversation, those initial moments changed my life forever. And so I wanted to encourage all of you in this way. If you're new to this church thing, like, man, praise God that you're here. And I just want to encourage you, just to engage in conversation. I think silence is the worst. When you don't want to talk about anything, just engage in conversation. And even if you're not really like that interested, or maybe you just, it's with people you normally don't want to interact with, right? Or it's about topics you don't normally want to talk about, at least start by just engaging in some sort of conversation. Humor it, try answering, seeing what the other person says. And on the flip side, for those of you who call yourself Christian, I think it's a challenge to engage in conversation with people. Even the people who seem the most distant or the most far off or give you one-word answers in the face of death. You just never know as you try to engage them and try to draw them in. Like these conversations, they can be completely life-changing. And so to wrap up, I wanted to give us some time to just share personally. Just 2 prompts, okay? You could choose one or the other. But based on this message, maybe the first one you could talk about is with what kind of conversation did your own spiritual journey start with? Maybe it was a random flyer and an ice pop that led to a conversation. Maybe it's some stranger that sat with you at a dining hall and it was super weird, but that started the conversation. I don't know. What is it? What was that initial conversation? What were some crucial conversations that helped you grow spiritually? Or the second one is, have you ever opened up about something you were ashamed of and you've been met with love and acceptance? So I wanted some time to just share personally around the text. And maybe we could do this. Maybe we could start with the oldest person sharing and then open it up for everyone else to share on the table if you have stories, whatever you feel comfortable about. And then afterwards, I'll just close this in prayer, all right?
to our church, was always make you feel. And then this led to different things like why are you doing this? Why are you so nice to me? I think what's the big deal with God? How do you know God? There's different crucial conversations. And they were saying kind of true. What they want to I was very, very helpful. Eventually, I was made a decision to become a Christian. I think that was very intellectually based in the sense that these things make sense. There was an apartment building there, a little bit until much later, I found out I was Christian. I went through a series of trials where essentially I was very deceptive and lying to folks that actually genuinely liked me. In a sense, I was kind of cornered by truth and reality. And I just confessed that fire was close to me. And I thought I was going to get kicked out, I was going to get persecuted, beat up. But I'm sure it hurt them. Wow. Oh, that's like crazy. God's grace. It's just really going across in the life to
conversation I was deeply one brother, he said something that just really caught me off guard. He just casually mentioned how like when I
I was expecting someone to say, here's the door, please leave. I was like, waiting for that to happen. But then that happened.
All right, let's wrap up. If I could invite the praise band to come. All right, let's wrap up. So yeah, if I could get the praise band to come, and we'll conclude. I'm sure it wasn't enough time, but we're gonna have lunch here, so maybe you could continue the conversations during lunch. But all right, I just wanted to wrap up with this. Jesus, he doesn't open very well in the conversation because it starts with what? Give me a drink. And he doesn't even say please, right? So it almost sounds like he's here to take something, and it feels like he's here to take something from her, and her guard is up because maybe that's what every single man has done in her life up to this point. And I think we're like that too. Maybe we think like, God, oh man, he's just a taker. He wants to take my career. He wants to take my dreams. And so we harden our hearts. But I just want to plead with you, that's not the case. No, that is far from the case. Jesus isn't here to take. He's actually here to give. He wants to take your failed strategy, and instead, in its place, he wants to give you true living water. And I think the question that this text leaves us with is, will you let him? And my prayer is that you would. You would begin that conversation, you would explore, you would trust him a little bit more. And I think in the end, you'll experience what many of the stories you probably heard around your tables are, that Jesus really is a source of true living water. And so to wrap up, we wanted to sing one song to close. And so if I could have all of you stand up, and we'll sing our closing song, and we'll have some couple of announcements afterwards. Do you think you could pray afterwards? Yeah.
With me, sign of the blood that still speaks. Now I'm forgiven, I'm called righteous under there on the cross of Calvary, you give it all to purchase me. You are the Savior and the God who set me free. Now my heart cries, this is my Redeemer. With my whole life, I will give you praise. All the glory to the one who is worthy. Because of Jesus, I have been changed. You made a way for me to enter into your holy place forever. Now I'm hidden, I am covered by your peace. Into your likeness you transform me, making me holy like you're holy. No longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. Now my heart cries, this is my Redeemer. With my whole life, I will give you praise. All the glory to the one who's worthy. Because of Jesus, I have been changed. You bring freedom to the captives, good news to the poor, healing to to the broken, and joy to those who mourn. You turn ashes into beauty, the ruins you restore. I am a testimony of the goodness of the Lord. And now my heart cries, this is my Redeemer. With my whole life, I will give you praise. All the glory to the one who's worthy. Because of Jesus, I have been changed. Because of Jesus, I have been changed. Because of Jesus, I have been changed. Let's pray together. Lord, I just thank you so much that we can have this testimony when we came and met you, oftentimes through just that conversation, and just starting with that conversation, Lord, as you reached out to this woman at the well, that you reached out to each one of us, and that you desire to have that relationship with us so that we can be truly satisfied, find true joy, fulfillment, what we were created for, to be in a relationship with you. Lord, I just thank you so much that because of you, we've been changed. Lord, I pray that you would help this to be just each one of our testimonies, that we can proclaim this to our friends and to our family, that we can tell this testimony of your goodness in our lives. And for those that don't know you yet, Lord, that they would be able to have that conversation, to be led into this relationship with you. Lord, I just thank you so much for this time. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Please have a seat.
All right, so that wraps up our service. So I only have 3 quick announcements, the 2 of which are the same 2 that I've been talking about for the past month, but I'll just say it again, all right? So first one being Filter of Hope. And so again, that is spring break of next semester, and I know that seems far away, but we just need to get interest, finalize roster, and just start fundraising. So again, if you're interested, please sign up with that QR code, or you could just talk to Ken and Abby who are in the back and get more info from them. The next one is AWC, and so that is at Chicago and Elgin, Illinois, in particular at our new HQ, and it's just a time where we could basically, I think already about 600 students have signed up, and I think we're estimating to about like 1,000 signing up, and it's just every student from across our network gathering to have a time to hear from God's Word, just connect, have a lot of fun, and so really encourage you guys to sign up. Again, early bird special ends November 1st, so please do sign up before that. And finally, the last one is in October 31st, we have our a2f Halloween small group? Large group with free dinner at 6:30 p.m. And we're going to have this at the Co-Rec Feature Gym, okay? And it's freshman hosted, so they're putting on, I think, song and skit and various things of the like. And so please do mark your calendar. Please come. Please invite your friends. And I think that is it for announcements. Lunch will actually be here because the weather took a downturn for the worse. And so it's going to be in the 2 back tables. Again, there's 2 tables, so please split up so that you don't overcrowd one. And so I'll have lunch in here, just hang out, fellowship, and we'll call it a day after that. All right, thank you.